add us as a friend. After doing so, send and we will approve your request. ABN loves to add new members, so find us and we hope to see you soon.
Jihad has come to America.
Constitutes the most devastating series of terrorist attacks in history.
The only deen Allah accepts is Al-Islam. And whoever seeks any other deen apart from Islam will never be accepted.
Allahu Akbar!
We stand together to win the war against terrorism.
But you too will make your destruction.
Welcome back to the show, live here on Jihad Exposed. This program will be uploaded on abnset.com within 24 hours of its live broadcast, so make sure you check that out at abnset.com. Dr. Hamid, question for you. How would the U.S. respond if Muslims declared a war on the U.S. and used sort of the standard Sharia law, the three options that you discussed earlier, on the West? And do you think that the West is actually equipped for Islam to come to the West?
Thanks for the question. I believe that the United States should not allow this situation to happen. In other words, they should not allow the radical groups to be powerful enough to be able to threaten America and the free world. This is number one. The second point is that if this happens, the response must be to show them the power of America. Unfortunately, the radical minds is a mind that respects power very much, and it's a sort of an ideology that needs to deal with it in a very strategic manner. You need to deal with the radicals by defeating them militarily. You need proper infiltration of the radical groups from within and to weaken them and attack them. You need to use psychological operations to defeat the radicals at the psychological level. This is extremely important. You need to use some tactics to change the process of thinking within the Muslim world, because the outcome in human behavior of any religion, when you see any religious text and the human behavior, the process of understanding is important, and the process of thinking itself is important. Do you think in absolutism, or do you accept relativism? All these factors can play a role. So I believe any deal with the Muslim world or the radical groups must be strategic, must be holistic, must identify the roots of the problem and work in a very pragmatic manner to deal with the problem as not one single thing. It's multidimensional problem that you need multi-directional approach using military power, proper intelligence infiltration, psychological warfare operations, weakening the hijab phenomena, and ultimately also that can help in new educational systems that can change the process of thinking within the Muslim world. You cannot just deal with the jihadists or terrorists. You have to look to the whole cultural problem that end in creating these mindsets that want to destroy the West.
Right, but at the same time, there's billions of dollars being spent each year to spread this quote-unquote radical ideology of Islam. So there are people out there like Anjem or Sheikh Omar that will never adhere to your interpretation of Islam. So how can we be sure that Sharia can in fact be reformed by the majority of Muslims?
First of all, people who want to use violence or promote violence against the West should be treated as enemies to the United States, and every military or intelligence warfare and every action is justifiable against this kind of terrorists who want to terrorize the West and who wanted to bring the radical views to the West. Regarding the second point, how the change can happen, as I mentioned, the initial stage of making change happen is, number one, by continuously criticizing and exposing the radical teaching, by creating a sort of intellectual debate that is respectful. Because what I see today is some sort of disrespectful debates that sometimes happen. And once you disrespect the other person, the whole process of thinking goes to the subconscious, and people get angry and reactive. And the debate, the value of the debate, that is not productive in this situation. So you need people in the Muslim world to start thinking, to start using the critical thinking, having intellectual debates that can bring some form of new ways of thinking, new interpretations to the percentage of Muslims who want to continue in Islam. So you need some tactics to deal with the radicals by defeating them militarily and intelligence level, by using different tactics to do this. And you need some system to prevent the radicalization process, to weaken the preaching via attacking their financial resources, for example, via trying to get to the supporters and work at the supporter level to prevent their support for the radical views. By all means, we may need some alternative energy system to weaken the Salafi Wahhabists who support these regimes, for example. So you need to integrate different tactics at the end to deal with this phenomena.
Waleed, will we ever see these tactics being enforced, do you think? And do you think that they would be efficient or effective here in the West?
They won't. Number one, Brother Hamid said that we have to have warfare with the Islamists. And when I suggested we have to have warfare with the Islamists, he says that we have 1.5 billion Muslims. We cannot defeat them. And he said that defeating them in the past simply gave them a temporary wound in which now Islam resurrects. So by that, he said that my technique doesn't work. But he reverted to the same technique, that we have to have warfare with the Islamists. We also poured billions of dollars to change the thinking. Brother Hamid says that we have to change the thinking of the Muslims. However, I must reiterate and say again that the Muslims are not oblivious to the tactics that the West is using vis-a-vis Brother Hamid's intent to change the mindset. And they are so willing to come into the dialogue vis-a-vis interfaith dialogue in not changing their views, but in changing their cloak. They become wolves in sheep's clothing, like Brother Faisal Abdul Rauf and every single Muslim organization in America, from MPAC to the Islamic Society of North America to CARE. They all talk about this kind of thing, that this is not a true Islam. In other words, they kind of put on a facade of that they are different than the Wahhabists, when in reality they are Wahhabists. Interfaith dialogue is not a solution at all. We have Kalimatun Sawa, an edict that was signed by a conglomerate of Christian scholars and pastors alongside with Muslims, in which the Muslims view that as a victory. In other words, they are coming to our table and they are not critiquing Islam, they are not criticizing Islam, and so it is really silencing the majority of Americans and Westerners not to address the issues of Sharia to its full aspects and the problems with Sharia. So in reality, it doesn't work. The greatest success has always been throughout Christendom is a defeat, and by also shedding the light of the gospel on the Islamic world and eliminating state Sharia laws from the Muslim world.
Okay, why don't we take our next call and then we'll bring it back to Anjem. Who do we have on air with us? Welcome to Jihad Exposed. You're live. Who do we have on air? You're live on ABN. Who do we have?
Hello, Isaac.
Yes, welcome,
Hello.
Isaac.
Okay.
What's your question and who's it for?
Okay, I'm saying that Sharia cannot be reformed, period. Interestingly, Mr. Anjem gave the example of Moses in Egypt going to Pharaoh, asking for release of the Israelites. In the like manner, he will go and spread the Islam to the world. Moses was acting at God's behest. While Islam is all man-made stuff, and Allah was one of the 360 idols, and all the idols were human beings such as Moses, Hubal, and Mary. He talked about Jibreel. If you read Sahih al-Bukhari, volume 4, 366, he was a handsome companion of Muhammad, no one else but Dia. World is now coming to know what Islam is all about. I don't consider Muhammad to be a prophet. However, I agree with his saying that Islam will go back to Medina. I will read from Sahih al-Bukhari, which says, narrated Abu Huraira, Allah's Messenger said, verily belief returns and goes back to Al-Medina as a snake returns and goes back to its hole when in danger. Now, if I have few more minutes, I would like to touch about his oppression against by the Indian government. Last time he just made a fool. He said Muslims are being persecuted in their own state, Kashmir. Muslims are occupying Kashmir. Hindus were living in India for more than 5,000 years, even before Islam was born, 3,000 years before the Islam was even born. 400,000 Kashmiris are displaced in India. They are refugees in their own country because of this Muslim. 60,000 people were killed before 9/11, 12 years prior to that. He was talking about crusaders walking in knee-deep water. If you take the killings in Kashmir alone, it is way over the heads of people. Like that, he's talking about knee-deep. I said way many times over the head. So with this kind of a terrorist Islam, this is a man-made stuff. You're talking about God. Don't compare Moses with Muhammad. Muhammad did not do anything miraculous. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for calling. Sharia cannot be reformed is his position. Let's take our next call here on ABN. Who do we have? Welcome to the program.
Hello?
Yes, who do we have on air?
Hello, good evening. Do you hear me?
Yes, we do. You're live.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry what happened. That was me, and then the line disconnected all of a sudden. I have a question for Brother Anjem.
Yes, go right ahead.
Oh, hi. Are you hearing me? I'm not sure. Do you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. You're live. Whenever you're ready, go ahead with your question for Anjem.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay. You guys, you said that if adultery is a part of Sharia, that anybody you hear it on a wife get adultery, she got killed, right?
That is what they were saying,
and
yes.
Answer yes or no.
Yes, that is what they were saying, that they would be killed if they were...
Okay, saying now. I want an answer, yes or no. Adultery in Islam, according to Sharia, if any woman get committed adultery, they would kill her, right?
Right.
Okay, yeah, that's an answer, yes. Now, when you divorce your wife, and you tell her you are divorced, when you said you anti-talik, here there's a point. What she should do, and then in order to come to receive her again, she's going to go and sleep with somebody else, according to your religion, and say muhallil, which is called muhallil, and then he will divorce her and come back to you again. She became your wife. Now, what do you call this? Why don't you think twice, buddy? Think twice before it's too late for you guys. There is adultery and there is adultery. In Christianity, in the Bible says, God, he said, you're not allowed to divorce your wife except adultery. And that would be once for all. But in you guys, it's opposite. You can divorce her, and then she will go to sleep with somebody else, and then that somebody else is going to divorce her, and she will come back to you. And then you tell me what is that supposed to mean. Thank you all, and God bless you.
Thank you. Anjem, I'll give you a couple minutes to respond to that.
Yes, obviously the question involving the divorce. Yes, definitely the divorce is the right of the man in Islam, but the woman also has the right to break the contract if she's been harmed in any way, which is called a khulla. And the man, yes, he has 3 divorces. And if he divorces her once, he can take her back within a month, after 1 month, and then he can give a second divorce, and he can give a third divorce. And obviously, if he does use his 3 divorces, then Islam does specify that he will not be able to take her back unless and until she marries somebody else. And if that marriage does not work, it's a long procedure. But let me just say, on the topic of